Today I'm going to teach you how to win a fight by any means necessary. And I'm not a fucking lawyer, so I don't give a shit if what I'm teaching you is illegal or not. I don't care if you can't use this in the UK, okay? I don't give a shit about that, alright? Listen, I got a global audience, okay? So I'm here to tell you how to win fights. I'm not here to tell you how to like win fights and not get arrested. I'm telling you how to win fights. You need to throw the first punch, 100%. You need to throw the first punch. Action always will beat reaction. It's easier to act than it is to react to something. You have the initiative and you have the inertia if you strike first. And things going according to plan are more likely to go according to plan for you than them. There's an old saying in the military, they say no plan survives contact with the enemy. And that's true with all violence. However, if you have the element of surprise and you have, the inertia on your side of the element of surprise, action will always beat reaction. Another thing I want to say is rule number 2, have some kind of weapon, right? Just a flashlight is an excellent tool, to blind somebody and also to use as a blunt force object. A flashlight is an amazing tool. And in many places in the world, nobody's going to say you can't have a flashlight, And when I say get a flashlight, I don't just mean some piece of shit crappy flashlight from Walmart. Spend anywhere from like $100 to $200 in your flashlight, right? If you're carrying this thing around as a serious self-defense tool, you want like an extra bright one. I like the Jav a lot because it's got a good throw to it, and it's about 1,000 lumens, so it's pretty damn bright. Rule number 3, take out their eye sockets, 100%. You want to aim for the eye sockets. You don't have to take out their eye sockets. You could throw something over their head. I've demonstrated that in other videos, throwing stuff over their head. So Bob, he's got a hat on. Well, you could pull this hat like over his eyes in a fight, right? By the way, quick plug, we sell a bunch of cool hats in my store, a bunch of funny hats. A lot of criminals wear masks. You could take his own mask, pull it up over his face, and use it against him. So, if Bob had like a ski mask on, you could pull it down, over his face. You want to obscure the vision of whoever you're fighting, right? So throwing something over their head, using their own hat against them, using their own mask against them, getting it to where the mask is covering their eyes. If they can't see you, they can't fight you. Obviously, pepper spray. I've demonstrated basically any aerosol can work. Spray paint could work. If you get stuff in people's eyes, it can cause permanent damage, and you're definitely going to win that fight if they can't see you. So spray paint, aerosols, pepper spray, taking their eyes out of the fight, 100%. And this can even be done from a distance with, a flashlight. So at night, a flashlight is definitely a good tool. Obviously, any blunt force object you can find can be driven through the eye socket as well. It's pretty grisly stuff, but I'm telling you how to win a fight at all costs. One thing I tell people to avoid even having a fight happen, you need to issue verbal commands and you need to value your personal space. You don't want people getting into your personal space unless it's on your terms, right? You really don't want people getting close to you. You don't want the staring contest where they're like an inch away from your face. You don't want that. I'm going to do a whole video on verbal commands, but verbal commands is huge, right? Police officers use them for a reason. So putting your hand out in a stop sign gesture, that's close enough, back up, right? It's very important. That's close enough, back up. When you do that, that's literally like something a cop would do. And it's gonna throw them, it's at least gonna buy you some time at the bare minimum. I've talked about this before in other videos. You need to learn how to psychologically dominate. You could actually avoid a lot of fights by doing that. Another thing I've talked about in other videos, elbows and hammer fist. Right now, I've been asked about headbutts. Headbutts are good if you can specifically get the forehead on the bridge of the nose. Other than that, I would avoid headbutts, right? I've went into how belts can be used as a weapon. Now, going back to the flashlight, it's the same thing with the belt, right? Like if you anticipate you're going to use your belt as a weapon at some point, it pays to get the right belt. Getting a belt that can really be used as a weapon, if you think you might have to improvise and use your belt as a weapon, I 100% recommend you do that. And you don't skimp out on that. Get yourself a good 511 tactical TDU belt that costs about $40. I recommend you have that. And another good thing about that is, it's not really considered a weapon legally. So a knife is a really great tool if you know how to use it. You should study the human anatomy, the jugular vein, the carotid artery, the femoral artery. You need to know where all these points are because they're the weak points of the human body. You can check out my other video that I did on knife fighting. If you know what you're doing, you should knife fight like this. If you don't know what you're doing, you really should do the ice pick grip if you don't know what you're doing, right? Most convicts fight with the ice pick grip, and this is kind of like how they fight. They block and they slash at the same time, right? And it's just a mad fucking, you know, that's how most convicts that don't know what they're doing, that's how they fight. Now, the older guys that have been knife fighting for years in prison, they actually did fight with the regular underhand grip, right? The reverse grip with the blade out, you know, a lot of people got confused in my other video that I did about this because they said, that's not the good way to fight. You're right. If you know what you're doing and you're a trained knife fighter, you really should do this type of deal. You know what I mean? You should block with the blade this way, and then you should have, you know, you could still block, and then if you know where the arteries are and you know what to target, then yes, that's absolutely how you should knife fight. But you have to practice that way. You have to train that way. If you're not trained to fight that way, I would go with the underhand grip, which is a much more defensive grip, and it doesn't take a lot of training to master it. If you get hit and you feel like you're about to fall over, you got to keep fighting. You got to stay in the fight. If they see that you have persistence and that you're not going to give up, this is going to deter your attacker. They're not going to want to continue. If they see that, you know, because if they hit you really good and you feel like you're about to fall over, but they see that you're still going, they're probably thinking, holy shit, I just hit this guy with the best shot I got, and he ain't going down. So this guy is looking for an exit plan, okay? So I'm letting you know, that moment when you feel like you're about to pass out in a fight, and you don't, and you keep going, that can scare the shit out of your opponent. Because I mean, that was a good hit, and they know it was a good hit too, and they see that you keep going. That really scares your opponent. And just remember, you have to stay mentally present. And the fight, you haven't truly lost a fight. If you walked away from it on your own power, I don't really count that as a loss. I really don't. I really don't. And that's my unique way of thinking about it. I look at it, if you walked away on your own power, me personally, I look at that as a stalemate. You know, and that's my very unique way of saying, of viewing fights. But if you walked away and you still have control of your arms, you could still mess him up later when he goes to sleep or something. So that's not really a victory. Just because you get beat up, if you're still walking and talking and you have full motor function, you could still mess him up later. So that's not truly a victory. That's how I look at it. So stay in the fight, stay present. You need to know how to block. You need to know how to not get fucked up. You need to know how to basically block, right? And then counterattack with the hammer fist as well. You know what I mean? A lot of things you could do with just knowing how to block. You can turn the tables by knowing how to effectively block, okay? You'll tire them out, and then you'll see an opening. You'll see an opportunity will present itself. In many situations, knowing how to block equals knowing how to win. Last but not least, make the fight happen on your terms, okay? I want to fight you at the top of a staircase. I want you to have to run up the staircase to get to me, and then we'll fight when you're at the very top of the staircase. You need to have the tactical advantage. Make sure they have the sun in their eyes. If you can control when and where the fight happens, make sure it happens on your terms. Guys, if you like these videos, look at this shirt Bob is wearing. That's actually a camouflage pattern that I designed, okay? How many ex-convicts get out of prison and within a year they're designing camouflage products, okay? Like, I'm a very special ex-convict. I'm not a regular ex-con. I want you to check this out. This is a camouflage pattern that I designed myself. I got a whole video where I designed the camouflage pattern. I had to learn a product development technique called sublimation and all types of stuff. You know, basically I had to learn how to get the pattern on fabric. The company that does it is Fourth Wall. I'm very transparent with how it's done and all that. So check out my Fourth Wall store. You know, I got sublimated products that I sell, the camouflage patterns, things like that. And we may put some of these patterns in tactical gear later if one of them ends up being a bestseller. Check it out, guys. In addition to that, I'm wearing my Tactical Florida Man shirt. You got to get yourself a Tactical Florida Man shirt if you're a Tactical Florida Man, 100%. I got a bunch of cool shirts, custom camouflage patterns. You name it. I even do requests. You know, it would be very, like, I'm willing to take the time to respond to comments. even many, many, many comments. I'm willing to take the time to do that, and I hope that's what separates me from other channels. So if you guys like this video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, support the channel. Thank you guys for supporting this channel. Jordan Jereb signing off.